Hello. All right.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. All right. Speaking about bear market, we lost two of our panelists, so here we
Yeah,
go.
it's the half of us.
Yeah, we got 25 minutes. Well, we'll make it exciting. My name is Won Kim. I'm a founder at Boardroom Ventures. We're actually located maybe about 7 blocks from here in Hell's Kitchen. We basically do two things. We run an investment fund specializing in blue chip NFTs, new Web3 protocols. And then on the other side really is the NFT agency side and Web3 side. And so we specialize in strategy, community road mapping, and also marketing. And so that's me, Won Kim. And you should-
Cool. Hey, everyone. I'm Gokce. I'm one of the co-founders of Calder. We are a Web3 loyalty infrastructure company working with brands and brand agencies, and thus this is why I'm here. And I was also an early stage team member at OpenSea and been around with NFT since 2018-19. So really excited to talk about the future of NFTs applications in the world of brand agency.
Great, thank you. So as we go through a little bit of our questions and just talk to you a little bit, I know it's hard with the din of the noise, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, how many folks in the crowd here work at an agency that focuses on NFTs, Web3? That's great.
Woo.
That's great. Yeah, okay, a few. So we are definitely speaking to
A brand
our
agency
people.
crowd.
So, Gokce, let me turn it to you first and just ask you, what are you building? And in a way, what you're building in this bear market that's specific to the strengths of what you bring to the table. I know that
Yeah.
you specialize in actually speaking to agencies and helping them, but
Yeah.
why don't you delve a little bit more on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what Calder does is essentially to provide enabling infrastructure and a CRM platform both for brands and brand agencies. What this means is that the early times of the bull market with NFT collections at OpenSea, the biggest question we were asked was, what's next? What comes next after a brand or a community or a band or even like a sports league launches an NFT collection and turns their customers into essentially a community? And when you never have the tools to essentially engage that NFT collection that you now turn into a community, the next phase of NFTs come in. This is what we call loyalty. The loyalty today is very traditional and transactional, but what we build at Calder is essentially a gamification system with quests, dynamic NFT memberships, and contribute to earn loyalty rewards so that brand agencies can leverage us an all-in-one and do their very important work on educating and onboarding the brands themselves, and that we can enable them with our software as a service.
Have you seen in the bear market either the interest change, or because of the bear market, it's been even more significant for
Yeah.
your group?
Definitely. So I think I'm curious about your answer in this one too, because what we have seen change is that every brand or community would come to us and say, I have to have an NFT strategy. I have to have something that says NFT in it. But now with the paradigm shift, what we are seeing is essentially brands coming to us and saying, what is in it for me? So you can essentially do the pitch on loyalty, ticketing, whatever your use case or agency vertical is, with the feature set instead of the PR side of it. And that's actually even better. The reason brand agencies and loyalty platforms should double down on this now is that you can make annual contracts and software as a service agreements instead of just one-off PRs. And one of our customers in the CPG space and luxury retail space, we targeted their loyalty membership tool as a whole and taking that over instead of just making them a one-off campaign. So I think right now the demand is much less, but you need to prove your OKRs, engagement and retention.
That's great. Yeah, we've seen that on the agency side where we've had Web2 brands come to us and they're
Yeah.
hey, what is Web3? We want to do what Yuga Labs is doing. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times it will be imitation, right? And they just want to imitate and copy what has worked for maybe some of the luxury brands or
Yeah.
other brands who've done it. And of course, when Web3 companies come to us, they want to innovate and they want to kind of push the boundaries, but they don't actually have a lot of money to spend. And so we're kind of falling in that middle stage, even in that kind of Web 2.5 where it's like, what do you do between imitation and innovation? And some of it is just to kind of initiate, implement small steps, and some of it is building out loyalty programs. Some of it is actually communicating to your audience in a better way. Have you seen in the bear market that you're pivoting some of your business model, you've been pivoting some of your communication, your conversations?
Definitely.
Just talk us through a little bit of that, and maybe if you have some use cases,
Yeah.
and if the clients let you do that, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. I'm happy to do so. So one of the biggest things we've seen is that like both the external marketing of like loyalty or like collectibles or ticketing and the internal sales pitch becomes much less about the jargon words like NFT, Web3, or like the metaverse, but it's much more about like, why do we have to do this? How long? And like, how are we going to communicate to our customers that may not have a wallet or may not have like an NFT before? So this is for the type of customers that never have like kind of got into like Web3. So they would look into this in the case of like, am I like doing like a ticketing or a collectible or like maybe product authorization or a loyalty case. And in this sense, we would like essentially try to be a core growth tool for them instead of, again, like a PR campaign. And there's also an interesting case with existing luxury brands like everyone looks up to that have maybe had great launches in the bull market and now coming to us saying, look, like we had a great launch, but we are very scared to do anything after this because we know like it's not going to see the same attraction. So they're also looking at it in the same angle. I'm like, how can I activate customers? And then how can I, like in the retention bucket, and then how can I acquire new customers? And one of the big pools we see for like blockchain-powered loyalty especially is interoperability, where like, can I spend like Godiva rewards in Starbucks one day? Can I like spend my Emirates rewards in Accor hotels one day? And we are coming to that future where this will be the underlying infrastructure, but like we are still very early. And one of the use cases is like we are partnering with, as like mentioned, like Godiva on like across their like US, UK, and like every like departments. And the biggest thing we've seen is actually like nearly 100% of the customers that like would join their loyalty program like set their wallets with our email-based wallet without even knowing they are setting a wallet. So we are actually coming to a phase where like users are coming in not because it's an NFT, but because they see value in it.
That's great. So a lot of times when you're working with a client like Godiva, you would not use actually the language and terminology of NFTs.
At all, yeah.
So somewhat a little bit of what Starbucks has done with Odyssey program, things of that sort.
Exactly, and it's very similar. Like, and Starbucks, like I think like they have like great press around it. They've been doing very well with their journeys. And the reason they like the Starbucks journeys are doing well is it's just a different marketing strategy. Like, you activate customers with gamification instead of just like saying, I'm going to give you 5 rewards for your coffee purchase. So they come back because they're engaged. And they're not only engaged in the point of sale, they're engaged across the end-to-end value chain.
That's great. Just turning a little bit into what it's been like building in the bear market, and maybe just get a little, share some anecdotes. So when Boardroom Ventures, when we launched, officially, we launched in the last NFT.NYC in June.
Oh, cool.
And our launch date, we had a launch party June 18th, 2022, when ETH just went under, and it was around 900. 900. That's ETH. That's like I said, ETH was under 1,000. It was at $962, and we literally had our launch party planned, and so we had about 75 people come out, and we were nervous, and we thought, with all the catered food, we canceled a few days before. We ordered Whoppers and French fries, made a little pyramid of Whoppers, and we just said, hey, we may not exist tomorrow. And part of it was just surviving. And I think a lot of you who run agencies right now, just the fact that you're here maybe a year later or 2 years later since you've launched is a lot, is a great story. And so that's a little bit part of our story. And then soon enough, just being able to exist and then survive and then have the conversations and be consistent with what we've built.
Yeah.
We've gotten some traction and it's been really good, but we've definitely pivoted. And so right when we started, we're still feeling the tailwind of the bull market. So we had clients calling us up, Web2 clients, CBS, things like that. We had a big market. And so we got bloated really fast and we hired a lot of people who were young upstarts in Web3, excited to do it. And then right when that happened, it's like, oh wow, Terra Luna, then FTX, and everyone's like, hey, the retainer fee's too high. I don't actually know if we're going to go to mint anymore. And so most of our contracts were front-ended with a little bit of retainer cash, and then most on the mint sale, right? And so we almost didn't survive. And so we had to pivot big time in the last few months. And so our agency model is we feel like there's enough people in this decentralized space who are really, really good at what they do. Design, storytelling, brand development, all the things a lot of times from Web 2 that translates. So we're like, hey, do you want to work with us on awesome projects? And then there are also agencies who've also been kind of taking the punch like us. Yeah. And so it's a little bit of a spool model. And so if there are any agencies out there who have kind of that business model in place like that, we'd love to chat with you as well. I felt like you were about to say something.
No, I actually had a question about that. So like, how did your pitch evolve to Web2 companies and like in that sense, like with your business model? Yeah,
we were fortunate because myself and our two other founders were deep in kind of the Web2. I worked at like Disney, ESPN. And so, so you kind of bring that Rolodex a little bit of all your contacts who, 10 years later now, they're making the decisions. And so we're calling them being like, are you interested in this thing called Web3, metaverse, blockchain, whatever hits. And then from there, we kind of developed a conversation. So we got lucky with that. But one of our other founders, other co-founders, Josh Ong, he's been deep into Web3. He's on the Bored Ape Yacht Council. So a lot of the Web3 folks kind of came to us being like, wow, you have credibility. You're on all of these spaces. I mean, we've consistently just showed up. And so we've kind of built it that way.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to do it because like at Calder2, we in a way have two different like partner decks. One for like customers who want to use us for like loyalty, and the other is like who are excited to also like jump into Web3 and are open to like integrating that language and become a case study. And I think like that's why like we prefer working with brand agencies and enabling them because like the stories like this show that like you guys are already like building the distribution and network effects, but like you just need the tools to scale it and scale it so that like you don't have to build the custom tools per brand, but be able to like deploy, like just like what Magic Wallet did for everyone's using like wallets or Third Web for deployment. That's where we want to like stand as like a net neutral connective like loyalty CRM, but it's like definitely that we see these two different like acquisitions with Web 2 versus Web 3. Yes, in the next 10-year realm, they're all going to merge, but one looks at it from more Web 2 marketing objective key results perspective. One is more like, I want to be the case study and blue chip like case study that everyone wants to look at.
That's great. I wish we could take questions from the audience because I feel like some of the agency folks. My Twitter handle is up there, so if you do tweet it to me, I will look at it. We talked a little bit about kind of pivoting in a turbulent market.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what would you share kind of in an audience like this of like some of the best lessons that you've taken in this? Obviously, we're still in a bear market. We're still trying to grow and build in a time that is unprecedented. But maybe speak a little bit into like best lessons, things that maybe people could take away from.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great time to be an early stage company and building like lean and agile because like right now maybe you're not going to be closing like 10 clients a month, but you will be closing one. But if you can build the right case study, the noise is so much lessened that everyone like you can get the attention and network effects much quicker. And essentially like we are right now building and like increasing the size of the pie that we are going to see in the next 4 years. So now that pie is small, it's more about surviving and finding that product, like, and like agency market fit or like product market fit, and be ready when like the bull markets like runs again, that you are ready to scale and like with the size of the pie. And this, it comes in form of customer acquisition and growth, and but like staying ideally like breaking even, revenue generating, instead of like trying to raise, or like with like tech multiples and everything, is just a better strategy for the bear market.
That's great. Yeah, I think if there's, I mean, mine's simple. If there's any lesson learned, it's find the good people.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people who are still here, and I think they want to build for the right reasons, and so
Yeah.
you can quickly tell who they are. I think with kind of the time remaining, I don't know if you want to get a little bit more into any learnings on use cases, brands, things that you've seen out in the market. I know that you also do a podcast in a space where you talk a lot about that. I think maybe just getting a little bit of a summation from you would be helpful, and then if there's anything else that you'd want to say or ask, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's great. And I think before that, on the like people side too, like I joined the space in like 2018, 19, which was like a tough bear market time too, and like I did feel like meet with people I still work to this day with, like times I work at the early team of Cello and like Robin Crypto, like where those are the people where I met my co-founder at, or that like 2018 is when I met like the OpenSea people. Like these are the times I think where the circle is much smaller. Like look at the size of NFT.NYC too. Like it's a great time to actually meet with people who cares, and also build those partnerships, because then like bull market gets so dazzling that you don't know what is a right trend or not, because there's just so much noise. And I think in that sense, like moving to the learnings and the case studies too, right now like Calder as like a brand and agency portal is fully focused on like who are the right like brands and like agencies and even layer ones partners we should have, so that they can enable the right case studies for themselves. And what we have seen as the biggest learning is that like so many brand agencies have like repetitively done like ticketing, loyalty use cases, but they never had the right product to enable them. And that like brands' desires are very different from NFT creators' desires. The brands want white labeled, customized experiences, and they want to own the community and experience while being able to collaborate with others. We've seen this with like Godiva, we've seen this with Les Benjamin's Chinatown Market, Streetwear World, CPG World, Hospitality World. The case is similar, where like they want to turn passive customers into an active community members, but be able to do it in a very seamless and white labeled way. So, and for everyone leading an agency here too, I think building your right preferred partners and toolkits will always like kind of get you guarded up to on-ramp any brand you want, and be able to build the case studies or cross-use the case studies so that you can acquire more customers. And the second learning that applies both to tools and the brand agencies is approaching like essentially brands with the right concrete proposals. And Juan and I have been talking about this in the backstage, where like every brand asks us like, what do I do? And the moment we answer that, it will be too late anyways. But like what you can do is be able to propose the concrete like pilot next steps and case studies, so that instead of they say, what do I do? You can transform that to me too, so that they're like, oh, I want this case study, I want Yuga Labs. Like this is gonna form anyways. And as a brand agency, if you can own that narrative, that's going to be a huge like organic marketing for you. And last up, when you touched up on the podcast, the way podcast started is I used to host like Twitter spaces while I was at OpenSea and I was in the product team. And what we have seen is we like in like conversations like this, we build like bonds with create like agencies, brands, and see their pains, and we actually talk in a more friendly term. And if you build a communication channel like that with your customers and partners, you essentially become friends before being customers or like build a community around your brand before trying to sell, so that you find the right people at the end of that path too. So finding those creative marketing strategies can be a good way to shine out in this bear market as well.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of what you mentioned is important is, you know, the questions that you ask as you try to win some pitches as an agency. A lot of times they're like, we want to see growth, we want to see scale, we want to see communities built.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what have you done as a founder or as a client? What is the right platform? It may not be Discord.
Yeah.
It may be Twitter. It may be something
Yeah.
else. A lot of the things that we've all learned in Web 2 still translates and still
Yeah.
works in Web 3. It's just a matter of getting to the core question. So a lot of times when we work with clients, they're like, we want to do what they just did successfully.
Yeah.
And we're like, and we want to mint out. And we're like, okay, how many people do you have following? What is your allow list strategy? Okay, now you have that. Who's going to actually follow through on that? Who's going to keep that North Star and that continued branding true to the story of who you are? And those are things that we all know. And I think people have forgotten because we've seen in the bull market so many things just like pop and flash, but a lot of those things aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people, this is the, you know, a lot of people I was talking to in the conference, I was just saying, what is kind of the takeaway? And people are like, we don't know if a bull run's coming,
Yeah.
but I want to be here for the long run. So how do we build things that are sustainable?
Yeah.
And not everyone can be either the next D-Gods, not everyone can be the next Yugo or Pudgy, who are just kind of riding in kind of that mid-cap level.
Yeah.
But who are the others that can rise up? And so it's really important to kind of be really well versed in Web3 and listening to what's being chatted about here and bringing that as educational tool to all the Web2 brands.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, where do you go mostly to continue to learn and grow? And like, are there things that we could share with the audience of like where are you downloading most of your information and from brands to kind of also what's happening in the trends?
Yeah, that's a great question. And then I have a question for you.
Please.
So I think for us, I know like since like people listening here are like either in brand or brand agency world too, user research is very important to us. Of course, like because there are some insights to every brand you can't read on the books. And if you want like per brand or like how to win cases insights, I think it's really important to have like weekly user researches with brands you work with and you don't work with. Like sometimes I literally just outbound brands that I know they're not ready to work with anyone yet, just so I can download myself on like what brands actually want, like what is their pain points, because like in like Web2 startups world too, if you're not solving a pain point, nobody's going to use you. So I think getting that like mindset into the Web3 world is like very important to me. But other than that, like my background is in more like engineering, and I did a lot of like DeFi and wallet space too. So I am really excited about like any technology, like on how do we bring more adoption. So like I'm nowadays looking into a lot of like email-based or MPC wallets, and how can we integrate that to Calder. So I divide like kind of my day job as like brand and like loyalty token protocol work and read around that. But night job, like I love like looking into new like applications and use cases, so that I can basically take different verticals within crypto and ingrain it into like Calder too. But my question to you is like, you said it's super cool that your like backgrounds from like Disney, and you guys come really from like the core of like the brand and entertainment and agency world, and it's very cutthroat. Like you need to hit the like the key results. So I'm curious like how your kind of key metrics or outputs for brands shifted from minting out to like new case studies or new metrics. Like what are brands looking for when you outbound them or they inbound you?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I mean, one brand we're working with right now, it is very similar to a lot of the projects we worked on kind of the Web 2 side. It's hey, is our actual messaging getting through? When people talk about who we are, do they say that one line that serves us in the long run? Some others are like, hey, they ask very specific questions like, I'm going to do a 10,000 NFT mint.
Yeah.
Is that right? And what's the supply, or what, not only the supply, but what's the price?
Yeah.
And we'll challenge. And so it does depend. I think a lot of times we need to have case points of like where we can point to. And so I think education is one of the most important things. And so
Yeah.
I think, at least for me, it's a continued learning process. So a few things that I think we do as an agency every morning, we're on Coffee with Captain on the Spaces. We have all the newsletters coming to us. You know, everything that we can kind of download and read, whether it's Crypto Scroll or The Drop. There is a new product out there called Alfie.xyz, and all they're doing is basically taking every brand that you know in Web3 and basically doing like an IMDb, Wikipedia drop on it.
Super cool.
And like those are like brand new innovations that are happening in Web3 where you just go in one click and you're like, what are the top 50 blue chip or even just growing Web3 companies doing right now, or NFT companies? And you right there, you can learn. And so you take those into meetings. We use ChatGPT like crazy. Half of our pitches now have gone through the ChatGPT kind of prompts. It's made us faster. And so we're just trying to get smarter, work smarter, not harder all the time, but we do work really, really hard too. So that's some of it. I would say maybe with the last minute that we have, is there any, just to like, any alpha, anything that you know that you see from the brand side that's happening? Are there companies that everyone here right now should pitch and beat me to? I would like to hear it first, but like just anything that you're seeing in the market that might just tickle and maybe challenge people as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I was going to ask you what's next too, but it's the same thing.
Same thing.
So I think, of course, like I'm biased because I'm deeply ingrained in like the brands and like loyalty intersection. But what we really do see is that like the next thesis of like NFTs will really look different from collections. It's like most of the collections like are going to die down, but the reason like because we really need to answer the question of what's next for the brands. So like gamification, questing, loyalty, ticketing, that full bucket of like essentially a customer activation is what we are going to see in the next bull run, like undeniably. So like expect seeing more like Starbucks like loyalty, Godiva like loyalty, expect seeing more dynamic memberships that evolve with whatever you do, because like essentially NFTs will become an identity where wallets will become your identity to go around with you and will be the cookie ingredient in your internet that evolves with what you do for different like games, different communities and brands. And we are really coming into that stage. So what we've seen in the last year will really look different from the next 4 years. And when it comes to the brands, I think one, what you're doing is really like strategic. And I guess that's what we do is like have two different, like I think, target lineups. One is like, you know, there are some brands and creators that are already like ingested the ethos of like Web3. So go chase them and like basically offer them what's next on like your agency market fit. But also like I think we see a lot of demand from the luxury retail, CPG, like entertainment or like esports, and try to tap into those ecosystems. But in order to growth hack your brand agency, I think really try to nail down at least one or the two of the case studies. And interestingly enough, that becomes your industry niche too. Like we started with streetwear and then their collaborators, and now every streetwear brand tries to inbound us because we basically were able to pitch a next generation brand loyalty. But I think those are the biggest advices, and I'm curious, what's next, you think, like with the insights you see every day?
Yeah, and we'll kind of end with this, but I would say when you think about where we were a year from now, so much of it was your digital identity.
Yeah.
And a lot of times digital identity and then, you know, kind of flexing your bags and like basically that represent who you are. I think now when you see things like, you know, Amazon joining the NFT play as well, it's going to be really experience. Yeah. And so when you think about Quest and things like that, I mean, even right now, there's a Applied Primate bar crawl right now. Even 90cc just did a little bit of a puzzle. And so you think when you have those experiences, and so when you're an agency right now thinking about how do we make a mark right now, it's less just about identity and right now giving the consumer an experience that they can't forget, that they want to say, this is now my new identity. I was able to do this and accomplish this. So, yeah.
Super cool.
Awesome.
That's
all right.
great.
Well, thank you everyone for being so patient and listening in. All right.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
If you have any questions, we'll be down in the front.